Round 26 tips. We're at the business end of the season. 7 of the 8 teams are locked into finals football, and the battle for 8th is starting to really ramp up. The top 4 got a massive shake-up last week. The Penrith Panthers with their loss to the Raiders, forcing them to go all the way into 4th. So a home final to Farewell Bluebet Stadium is honestly hanging on by a thread. So it's going to be a big weekend, but it's also getting to the point where some teams may start resting some players, which always tends to have a big impact on where teams will finish at the end of the season. For some, it's not going to matter. For some, it's going to matter a whole lot. For the Cowboys, they host the Melbourne Storm, and unfortunately, if you're a Manly Sea Eagles fan, it looks like the Melbourne Storm are going to be resting plenty of talent. It's one of the longest trips in rugby league, and when you finish first and there's no shot of you falling off, you may as well rest some of those key players. But I still want to see how the Cowboys go, because the Cowboys have been far from convincing despite a few games so far this season, and it'd be really concerning if they were to drop this game here. So obviously I'm going to tip the Cowboys because I get my rugby league knowledge. Cowboys will lock in a home final if they are to get the win this weekend, and with the Melbourne Storm resting all those players, it's hard not to see the Cowboys winning. Match of the round, the Dogs taking on the Sea Eagles. Unfortunately, Manly losing to the Tigers, or the bunker, really has put a dampen on the end of this season. Now Manly will probably have to win the last 2 games to get any chance of making the top 6 and getting a home final at Brookie. The Dogs, they're still in the fight for the top 4, and the way out of all the top 4 teams are playing, you know, the Sharks have been criticising them for the better part of the last few months, but the Panthers, the way they've been playing hasn't been that great, and maybe they are the Doggies' best chance of seeing a team fall off so they could make the top 4. Now this is at a corner. The Doggies have been on one of the great winning streaks. You expect Manly to perform a bounce back considering how embarrassing last week actually was. Now I would give the tip to Manly on paper, but we obviously know rugby league isn't played on paper, and with the Doggies I know it to expect every single week, so I completely understand why they are favourites. But if Manly come and play their best, I think they've got too much strike and too much X factor for this Doggies team. Obviously many people are going to tip the Doggies, and I probably would too if I was putting my entire life on it, but this is my rugby league team, so I'm tipping Manly 13+. The Panthers taking on the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs, well, they've looked like respectfully a bag of but the Panthers, honestly, compared to their standards, aren't actually that far behind. They haven't been great ever since really the back end of Origin 3 when Dylan Edwards was out. Jerome Luai had been rested. Then they got Cleary back, and it looked like they were trying to figure out their combinations once again. And now, really, with Nathan Crew being out again, they looked like a shell of the team that we saw even without Cleary at the earlier part of the season. I'm not a rugby league idiot. I'm obviously tipping Penrith here, but I'm just wary because Penrith, they know how important it is to get a home final. This run of grand finals they've been to, and obviously the premierships they've won in a row, they've always managed to finish in the top 2 and get a home qualifying final. So, you know they'll be out on the hunt for it, but unfortunately, I think they might have just pissed that away. The Eels taking on the Dragons. Not going to spend much time on this one because no matter how I tip Dragons games, since round 9, they've gone win-loss, win-loss. That included a win in Melbourne over Melbourne. And considering this is Parramatta, I'm not going to continue that pattern. So Dragons fans, be careful of that pattern because it actually means you're winning week 1 of finals. Plus, I really hope Parramatta rest all their key players for the Spoon Bowl because that would be absolutely hilarious. Now, this one's going to be fun. The Dolphins taking on the Broncos. Both of these teams are outside chances to make the top 8. They're still both mathematically a chance, especially with how inconsistent the Dragons have been. So there's going to be plenty of feeling in this game. One of the game's great modern day rivalries. I know it's only new, but they've already sold out Suncorp Stadium. This is going to be such an incredible atmosphere, such a good occasion, and wouldn't it be great if Wayne Bennett in his final match at Suncorp with the Dolphins could get the win and knock out the Brisbane rival. Obviously, it doesn't guarantee them making the 8, but wouldn't it be sweet if Wayne could end the Brisbane Broncos season? The Broncos are still without a bunch of their big guns, and to be honest, if they come out and play like they did at the beginning of last week, they should get run over. The same with the Dolphins. 2 teams that sort of started the season red hot. The Dolphins especially have just really not found their form in the back half of the year. On paper, obviously Brisbane is the obvious tip here, but we've said that all season long, and because I am a rugby league poet at heart, considering how the Tigers in the NRL script did that to Manly last week, I'm obviously going to take Wayne and the Dolphins. Dolphins. The Sharkies taking on the Warriors in what will be Sean Johnson's final game here. The Sharkies, they're playing for a top 4 spot. The Warriors, they are playing for SJ. It's funny how world and life and whatever you want to say actually works, because it's just funny how this ends up being Sean Johnson's final game. It's a shame they've got the bye the next week, the Warriors, but they'll be looking to enter 2025 in some good form. And last year, if you remember this fixture, this was the incredible comeback the Warriors actually put on the Sharks at the Shire. There's rumours Nico Hines will be back, so maybe there's going to be a teething process for the Sharkies, but in recent years when Nico comes back, he comes back absolutely on fire. And who knows, maybe this injury and all the time off post-Origin will actually do him a world of good. But at this point, who cares about the tipping record anymore? The Sharks will win. They probably should win, and they probably will definitely win. But I'm going to hate myself if I'm not on the fairy tale. So you know what? For the back-to-back weeks, I'm going to be taking the Wars. The Knights taking on the Titans. Now, this game will be interesting if the Dragons do lose. That'll keep the Newcastle Knights season alive. The Titans, I don't know what happened after that game against the Brisbane Broncos where they put on 36-0 in the second half. It felt like that was a turning point. And then ever since then, they've really fallen off a cliff. I think they're just waiting for next year. They've had a bunch of injuries this year, the Titans, including to their key player and their captain. I just think they've run out of juice. The Knights, well, they've been less than convincing all season long. It's been such a weird year for the Newcastle Knights, but if there's one way to describe it, it is pretty much just not good. But a team that could potentially be playing finals still with Kalen Ponga, who can pop up all over the field and create something out of nothing against one of the worst defenses in the competition. Yeah, I'm taking the Newcastle Knights. And finally, the Roosters taking on the Raiders. The Chookies, they're looking to lock in a home final at Allianz Stadium, which would be kind of a great occasion. And to be honest, while Penrith are probably still a lot of people's premiership favourites, the Roosters have been playing better footy across this season than Penrith, especially over the last few months. Now, the Raiders did absolutely something incredible last weekend, so maybe they can do it again, similar to the Knights. If the Dragons do lose, their top 8 hope is still alive, but they'll have to win this game, and it'll have to be some sort of upset, but they just did it last week, and we all know Ricky Stuart is capable of something special. I think the Raiders' biggest strength is similar, and obviously a lesser version of the way that Penrith and Melbourne have been able to trouble the Roosters. They've got Jamal Fogarty's kicking game. If the Raiders can turn this into a grind, and the Roosters can't kick to corners with Sam Walker and Luke Keary, Jamal Fogarty can outkick them. Their forward pack can get on a roll and they can stop the absolute firepower the Roosters have in the backline, then I can see them getting the win here. But those are a lot of big ifs. The Roosters forward pack, despite missing JWH again, is still incredible. Their backline has so much strike. It's at Allianz. It's a Sunday arvo. And when Hainsey and the boys are screaming in the chook pen, I can't not tip the Roosters. But ladies and gentlemen, there are my round 26 tips. We've just got 2 full weekends of rugby league to go until the end of the season. So I've got the Cowboys against the rested Storm. Manly hopeful to keep a chance of a home brookie final alive. Panthers 13+. The Dragons 1-12. The Dolphins 1-12. The Warriors 1-12. The Knights 13+. And the Roosters 1-12. As always, let me know in that comment section. That's what it's there for. Your tips for round 26. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't yet already. And of course, I'll see you in the next one.